Hello, yeah, I'm Robert Seals, and a little bit about my experience. I'm a retired wildland fire specialist. I've done about everything on fires except fly the retardant bombers and the choppers. I've been on heli-tac crews, jumped out of choppers into fires and falling crews. Specialty, I trained several hand crews. I've actually trained military crews on some of the bigger fires in the past years, like Yellowstone. So anyway, I'm really a proponent on, and having seen a lot of the houses in the Santa Cruz Mountains and other places, but that's where this demonstration is taking place. I see a lot of two major problems. One is defensible space is really not done well enough in most cases, and there's a lot of fences and decks that are those are big problems with fire spreaders, with embers falling on that. So defensible space is pretty well defined on the CAL FIRE websites, and they talk about it in fire safe councils. So I'm not going to get too much into that, but pay attention to those, study those, especially in the Santa Cruz Mountains where there's very little flat ground, and pay attention to canopy clearance and how it changes as the slope degree changes from flat to 10 feet on canopy clearance to 30 or 40 degrees and 30 feet canopy clearance. So be up on that and try to get your property in order and your neighbor's properties in order. Like, it doesn't do any good if they have a nice cedar fence and you're all cleared, but the embers get their fence going and burns both of your houses down. So kind of work with your neighbors on this whole project of defensible space and water supply. That what we're doing today is demonstrating a sprinkler and fire protection system that doesn't depend on city water. It doesn't depend on PG&E. It's all gas powered with small, very affordable pumps, and that's kind of our focus today on, and we're going to demonstrate one. I think that pretty much covers that end, and we're going to begin ours with various water supply sources and how to tap into them. Okay, we're going to start with water source. That's the key to this whole system, and in this scenario we're using our water tank, 5,000 gallon polypropylene tank that is our potable water source for our property. But as you can see, I have what's called a draft hose, which is a suction hose, and not to be confused with your pressure side. We'll get into that. So this hose won't collapse as the suction builds up in the pump. But you can see what we've done. There's no way into this tank. It was plumbed years ago, and ideally, if we had a nice 2-inch output down on the bottom, that we would use that. But there's always a way in. Whether we took the top off, so it's whether you're going in through the top of the tank like this, and you want to make sure and have a screen on the end, because you could even have sediment in your tank, so you want to, even a window screen ball is recommended around your tank. I mean around your suction line at the end, because if you get sediment in there, it could plug up your sprinklers. The slightest little pieces, there are screens in them, and I'll get into that later. That if they plug up, it'll shut it down. So anyway, you want to have a screen on the end. So the pump will build up suction. It gets into the pump. This pump we're showing today, it's I'm real big on the Honda pumps, but they are expensive. They can be up to $800 for a 2-inch, and you want 2-inch in and 2-inch out, because it's all about the water flow so that you can run several systems, sprinklers, a few fire hoses off of one pump. And the difference between this and your house system is your house system, for instance, our house system here comes in on a 1-inch line from the pressure pump. It goes to the house, and then it goes to 1/2-inch copper line through the house, and then it comes out as faucets. So once you run 1 or 2 garden hoses, you start to lose volume. And you could never, and that is the problem. You see all the people frequently trying to wet down their property or put out fire that's approaching with a garden hose that's just trickling water out because they got 2 or 3 of them going. That's where this is different. It keeps very high, it keeps about 50 to 60 psi, that's the pressure, and the volume is around 150 gallons a minute. So your house system is probably 10 gallons a minute and about 60 psi. So you don't have enough gallons per minute to even come close to doing what we're going to demonstrate that this will do. Now this pump is a Harbor Freight pump. It's called the Predator 2-inch, and I've tested it next to the Honda, and it's almost as good as the $800 Honda, and it's about $220, and so that's a real good deal. These Harbor Freight also sells these suction lines, and they're about $60 a piece, and they're already fit with your 2-inch fitting here to go right on your pump, and so you're good to go on your suction end there. And then the pressure end, this is called lay flat hose, and I chose it over, say, 1.5 inch. They don't really make 2-inch fire hose. We'll get into that later. We use like 1.5 inch hose for our high volume work lines that you'll see on down the line here. So what we've done is you buy this lay flat hose, and you can see it running here. And then I'm gonna move on down the line, but this is the pressure side. So once again, suction is your hard hose. It won't collapse as the suction builds up. And then this is called lay flat, because when it's empty it lays flat. That's how they got that name. And the pressure, and you always want to make sure and keep your kinks out of it too. So we're going to move on here and explain some of the different hookups. What I have here, this is some of the lay flat hose I wanted to show you. And the hose shop in Santa Cruz makes about the best of these. You also can get it from Green River Kennedy in Watsonville. The hose shop, they put aluminum fittings on, which I like a little better. The plastic fittings are about 1/3 of the cost, and they work just fine. Before we go too far, you notice these boxes I got. If you get a system like this, you get 3 or 4 of these boxes. The pump, these are Home Depot. The pump fits nicely in here. I got one with pump and a few nozzles and things. I got another one with just with the garden hoses that supply our sprinklers on the all around the structures. And another note is this stuff, put it up, put it away where it's close to, in the summertime, in the fire season, where it's readily available to set up quickly. Practice setting it up. Make sure everybody in your household understands and knows how it works and lays out. Do a drill on it and make sure you have that down. And do not use these hoses for any other projects. And don't rely on, well, I got a few garden hoses, I can just grab those, because that doesn't work. You can look over here. We got garden hoses hanging on the wall, but all the hoses that we're going to show you today will go back in the box, and they won't be touched for any other projects. It's very important. So moving on down the line here with our pressure, and this is kind of the part that you can't buy that makes this system very effective. These are all glue up, and I'm going to draw some plans for these. Everything you can get from a good plumbing supply. You have crosses, reducers, plastic valves. So the water, as you can see, everything is male, female with your cam lock. So you got a male going into here, into a female. You got a male here into a female. So this part here is totally separate just by releasing these. And so you can put any piece of this in the system at any length. These hoses come in 25-foot lengths or 50-foot lengths, And I recommend not going longer than that. It's a lot easier to handle 250s and put them together to get 100 than to get 100, because if you get kinks and stuff when you lay it out, it's just it's a lot harder. So stay with 50s, but definitely get some shorter 25s as well, because in this case, for instance, I used 25 to get to here. If I would have had a 50, I'd have a bunch of hose laying around here and be prone to kinking when it got pressured. So get a good mix of hose. And once again, here I made a Y out of a 2-inch Y, glued in some 2-inch nipples, and then screwed on the appropriate fittings so it's all female and male to continue out. And I did this here because we came from my pump, and it depends on your house and your property layout, but I wanted to go 2 ways around this house here. So instead of going one big hose around the whole house and putting in some of these manifolds, I decided it's more convenient and more workable to split my water right here and go on around. And now let's just walk down here. So let's say we're coming out of this feed right here. And you'll see down here is another manifold that I make when you reach sort of like maybe an end of your work line, your main pressure line. So see, the whole idea is you're keeping full pressure all the way to your sprinklers. You don't want to take and start Ying off with little garden Ys and try to run a little garden manifold that they sell at Home Depot. That doesn't work. Even with this system, you'd start losing pressure and volume. So you come into this 2-inch manifold, once again, it's all glue up stuff you can buy at the plumbing supply. And here, I can run 4 sprinklers, up to 100 feet even. And you can see I have one on the deck up there, and we're going to turn them on in a bit. And then here I have a full 2-inch, and then I have your 1.5-inch regular forestry cotton pressure line with a nozzle up on my deck, and we're going to demonstrate that in a while to show you the kind of volume you could put out with this system. And this is, you could be 300 or 400 feet from your pump source. So anyway, we're going to go show you another end around the house on the other side. So this is the line coming to the left on the Y we put in by the pump. You can see we came over here in this case, and I put in another. I have a fire fitting here. There's no hose on it. We don't need that today. I'm just going to demonstrate off another one. But you got a valve here, so it's shut off. And I capped this, but this is ready to put another line on, and I could go on around out to this corner of the house that way. But it's just a duplication of what we've already done. So homemade manifolds again. Those are the secret. 2-inch full flow. So we're going to go back to the pump and turn it on and demonstrate the flow of the pump through fire hose and to show you what they look like on roofs and the corners of the buildings. Yeah, I'm going to start the pump now. There's an on switch back here, a little red one. And then if it's cold, you choke it. Over here you see we got off of this manifold, we've reduced it to the garden hose, and we have a rain bird on top of this structure here, and they're adjustable, but that one's going in a circle. So in 20 minutes or so we'd have this whole area wet down. They do about an 80-foot circle. So look out here. This one's on a circle, it just started. It's wetting about 40 feet out from the house, and as it goes in a circle, it's getting the entire house. We haven't put any on the roof here just for the sake of the demonstration, but I would have 2 on the roof going at the same time, and probably one at the corner right here. 5,000 gallons of water. So now we're going to demonstrate the 1.5-inch fire output, which could be going simultaneously with the sprinklers. You probably could have 6 sprinklers going and still put out the volume, even of 2 of these hoses that he's going to demonstrate, which would be used for quick saturation of your whole area. So I'm going to show you that, and then I have some more to tell you. Okay, so you can see how efficient this system is. And water supply, for those of you saying, well, we don't have a water supply. Well, get one. Take that backyard, buy yourself a cheap doughboy pool, 3, 4, 5,000 gallons, put it up in the summer, let the kids play in it. A hot tub works. You got, 500 gallons in a hot tub possibly. Dig a hole in the backyard and line it with Visqueen. Get a water supply. You can buy tanks, 2,000 gallon that are 6 feet in diameter and 10 feet tall for about $1,500. So the point on all of this is it's probably 4 or 5 times easier to wet fuel down. Fire is all about a couple of things. It's about the wind, and more important than that, it's about fuel moisture. That's why we have red flag in the summer when everything's dried out. It's because the fuel moisture is low. So by instantaneously raising the fuel moisture, you greatly reduce the chance of it catching on fire. And the reason for that is if something's already involved in fire, wood is already on fire, it's 4 or 5 times as hard to put it out, because as the water comes on it turns to steam and it's on top of the heat. If your water is on the bottom on your fuel raising the fuel moisture, then you're having to get, the heat can't get through that to get to the fuel to ignite it. So it's as simple as that. And so that's why this system is so effective. The way I would do it is I would take the big fire hose, drench my house, my deck, very quickly. In 5 or 10 minutes I could have that done. You saw how far it was shooting, within 100 feet out. Everything's nice and wet. Then I engage my sprinklers. They're already preset. You turn them all on, and they could have been running anyway along with that initial wet down process. And then that's all. Then you can leave. So this is all stuff that can be done before you leave, and also this stuff can be plumbed into with your first responders, your fire departments. They have ways to plumb into this stuff you've already laid out. So it also helps them. It also helps them for individuals and communities and neighborhoods to know their water sources and have a list of them for all the whole community. Like our community, we have about 12 properties, and we've got a list of how many gallons above ground each house has, where it is, what kind of fittings are in the tank, does it have a hydrant, etc. So, and that's great information for the community. It's great information for the first responders, because they run around looking for the water. And if you've got a draft hole or a creek, improve the little creek. It doesn't take a lot of water. You can dig out a little spring and have, a couple thousand gallons of water that you could tap into to fill fire trucks even. So all that information should be ready to hand to the fire departments, and the neighborhood should know it as well. And I am available. My number is 530-521-3486. And I will come to communities and bring this equipment and do demonstrations. I do it as a nonprofit volunteer work. And so any questions, you can call me, and this is all going to be put on social media, YouTube, and some things like that. And we'll probably have some more to follow. So that concludes today's demonstration. Thank you.